Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Sisters podcast. This is Gabrielle Celeste. Welcome. I am so excited for this episode, you guys. This has been in the making for maybe the last 3 to 4 months. When we received this pitch in our inbox, I was like, we must have her on. This topic is a fan favorite. But before I go ahead and get ahead of myself, I am so excited to welcome Josie Castaneda, the author of Latine Herbalism, A Beginner's Guide to Modern Curanderismo, Healing Plants, and Folk Traditions of the Americas. In this book, drawing from more than 2 decades of experience in meditation, folk herbalism, and I'm going to butcher this, guys, Reiki, Josie makes ancient healing arts accessible in this, honestly, legacy of a novel. It feels like this was a birth on its own. I'm really excited to get into all that this guide really is. So, Josie, welcome to the show. So excited to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Gabrielle. It's such a pleasure to be here. And yes, when you said that it's been a minute, it's like, wow, yes, we pitched this way back when. It was just timing, but I'm glad to be here.
It's totally. And anytime we get pitches or we, get potential collaborations or potential guest features for the show, something I really like to do, it's like, okay, is this going to vibe with the audience? I check out the Instagrams and just all the things. And we just knew that this was going to be a fan favorite. So I'm so excited to get into it. But before we do that, we like to do kind of like a rapid fire set of questions for each of our guests, just so we can kind of get an idea of their flavor and their essence and their soul. So let me go ahead and get started. Okay. What are your big 3 in astrology, my dear?
So we were talking offline. Astrology is not a big thing for me. I actually don't follow it the way other people do. But I do know. There's certain things that I do know for 3 of astrology. Number 1, I actually follow astronomy, which is a little bit different than astrology, right? Because astrology is like the little calendar, the little wheel is a little off. So I'm more of that. So I do biodynamic calendar. That's what I do. So that's number 1. Number 2, I know that we have free will. So even when people give me readings, I'm like, yes, but, and. So it's not always true. And then the third thing with astrology is I'm also always open. And I do sometimes get and receive astrology from the Ayurvedic Indian versions, which is Jyotisha. So there is some stuff for big major things I do go and ask, but then I always have a question mark with it,
Totally. Are you comfortable sharing your sun sign, just out of curiosity?
I'm Sagittarius
sun. Okay. You know what? I love one of my sisters that's on the show. She co-hosts with me. She is a Sag sun and vibes like the teacher of the zodiac because they're ruled by Jupiter. So I fuck with it. It's a nice break of just my emotional seriousness, all the water on my chart. So yeah, but thank you for sharing that. What is your human design makeup?
You had asked me, I pulled it up and double check, manifesting generator. So that's what I am. Yeah, manifesting generator. Okay. I have no idea what that means.
What I know of the Manny Gens is that they like to do a lot of things at once. They have a lot of things going on, multiple projects. Both Brianna and Nicole are Manny Gens, so I understand the archetype quite well. And I have a sense of appreciation because alongside generators, which is what I am, and those 2 population types, we're the builders of the collective. Right. We create shit, we build shit up. So that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So what other, what podcasts, books, medias, shows are you consuming at this time?
It's so interesting. People have asked me this a few times in the podcast, and I'm like, I'm a hermit. I actually have I have a very deep meditation practice. It takes me away from everything. Just because, contemplation and meditation, it's about turning inward, and I've done that for so long that it's very difficult for me to tell you, well, I only read this, and what I consume, honestly, is so funny. My mom is the one that tells me, this show on Netflix is really good. I'm like, okay, let me see and check it out the first, I'll check out the first episode and see. But I don't watch the news. I have a couple of friends who watch news and they're very logical they're very logical about what they see. So I go to them for a weekly or bi-weekly sort of recap, what's happening. But I will say, except for the current administration, that I follow NPR for that, for sure, because I don't want to miss anything. But like in general,
Mhm.
I don't watch the news. I don't necessarily have a Netflix like special show that I watch. Podcasts. It's hard for me to listen without doing something. And when I do something and I listen, then somewhere in the middle of that, I check out. So I don't really have a podcast that I really go to. And then reading in terms of books, I have shelves I'm looking at right now. A lot of it is sort of like traditional modalities, a lot of books on yoga, Ayurveda, pranayama, a lot of books on like, yeah. So I like what I put in my brain is really, it's nothing like pop stuff, you know, it really isn't. And I don't really go out that much to eat and stuff because I really love to connect with my food at home. So yeah, I'm a bit of a hermit, like to be honest with you. So it's very hard for me to tell you, oh, these are the ones that I don't, I don't have that many.
Yeah, no, I get that, especially with the food thing as of late. I was actually going to speak to that because I was like, is this the full moon energy? Is this
Mm,
my open spleen and human design? But like, I truly believe, actually, I will die on this hill, that the more that you ascend, the more that you expand your vibration and you just become more sensitive.
yeah,
And that includes like food. And I'm like, I can't take in things the way I
yeah,
used to. So
yeah,
I get
yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's just very
Yeah.
difficult to say. And then to be honest with you, like even with me, when I start doing certain things, there comes a moment where because you are sensitive and that is a big part of it too, you just don't find the joy in it, you know. Like sometimes you have to have something really special. Like the people that know me and love me for many years, they'll send me special episodes of certain things. They're like, look, listen to this is amazing and I think you will really benefit from that. So I kind of get my information like that, which is kind of nice actually, you know, because it's people that know me and they know the vibration that I'm sitting in. But I don't really have anything that I can share with the listeners that I can say, oh my God, you have to watch this or you have, like, I don't, you know, I really don't. I wish I did. Um, but to some degree, I'm kind of happy with the way things are. So,
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm taking a page out of your book because I really do feel like I'm cleaning house in all areas of my
yeah,
life, and I'm like, maybe that's just what I have to do to protect my energy to be not as accessible. So I can really appreciate what you're sharing. So thank you for saying that.
sure.
Um, yeah. So next question, I have two more. Is if you had the opportunity to work with the dream or ideal client, either living or have passed to the next dimension, who would it be and why?
Wow. So when you say work, what do you mean? Or do you mean to like just be around and learn from?
I think to work with you in the capacity of your business and the skill set that
Okay.
you have and working with them to support them.
I would say probably Frida Kahlo. I love her as an artist, and I think that if
Okay.
she had had access to energy work, her art would have been different for sure, but it would have helped her to sort of like express some of those demons that followed her throughout her life. So yeah,
Yeah, for sure. She was hella psychic. Hella
yeah,
psychic. She
yeah,
had to be. There's no way.
yeah.
Totally. Oh, that's such a good answer. We haven't gotten that one on the show. Okay, awesome. I love that. It's one of my favorite answers, this one and the next one. But if you had the opportunity to go to a concert for any artist, either living or past, who would it be and why?
So my dad was a singer, and
Oh.
he was very famous for a while. And there was, and this is for the Latins that are actually listening. We have somebody called Perez Prado, which was like the king of mambo original. So my father was in his band for 1 year of his life. That concert, I
Mm.
would have loved to have been. I mean, I was alive for that, and I remember my dad wearing certain things and looking at me, and my mom said to me, "Well, that's that time that your dad was singing." And I was like, "You think?" I was like under a year old, so I don't know if it's really a
Hmm.
memory. But as an adult, I would have liked to have been there in person to actually hear them together live. Like that would have been a big thing for me.
So you basically come from a family of artists.
Yeah, yeah. I have a friend who, I
That's
mean,
so
so I
cool.
started, and you read the book, but for those who haven't, I started my journey into this because I worked for so long and so diligently in the fashion industry. Like I needed something to manage that. And so that kind of brought me around to what I do today. But, I've always been an artist even since I was little, painting, drawing, making little clothes for my dolls. And even today, like to me, when I make formulas, it's an art form. And it's not just, okay, the herb does this, that, and the other. It's actually like, yes, the herbs do that from their physical, but then the energetic. So to me, that's kind of like an art. You're kind of like painting a story with the herbs. So yeah, so I
Yeah.
definitely feel like art is in my, and everything I do that's not related to curanderismo and the healing arts it's really like crafting stuff, or what people will call craft, you know. I love to embroider, I love to paint, you know, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I do consider myself an artist, even though some people might say probably not, but who knows?
Yeah, that's so cool. And like in your crafting of your remedies, your potions, your elixirs, you're infusing it with your energy and they're getting a
Absolutely.
sense or a taste of your vibration. That's so
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah, totally.
That's so cool. Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay. This just gets me even more excited for what we're about to dive into. So, before I pass it along to you, you can just share, a little bit about your background, how you got into the work, what this it kind of feels like it was a calling and like you were very much meant to write this book. I just wanted to share my appreciation for my experience with it beforehand.
Love
So,
to
what I
hear
really
that.
appreciated was, yeah, so I truly, I will say, like in my experience, what I've come across in my studies for the last 7 to 8 years, I haven't come across something like this. Like it was very much like an open area or open opportunity niche into the market in the sense of what is available in this book. And what I really appreciated off from the jump is your description and your definition of curanderismo, as well as shamanic work, because I feel like it's a very broad area
Hmm.
of work that people don't really dive into or have an idea of, and it's not as well understood, even though it's been around for forever. It's the most ancient religion.
Hmm.
And I really, really appreciated the structure of the book from the basics, the terminology, how you broke up the subdivisions from like remedies that applied to the energy of sun work or moon work, the heart
Right.
work, flower essences, and talk therapy. And I think that also your description of like, so I have my notes here that I'm reading, guys, because I really wanted to capture it in its glory. It's the detailed definition of curanderismo, the basics, how it's evolved over the course of time, and it's also its relationship now with traditional Western herbalism and curanderismo and the effect it has on one another. But I think also one of the key points that I really appreciated was that you really make it a point to say like these remedies are timeless, even though the ailments that we're experiencing in our day and age with being on our fucking phones all
Hmm.
day and sitting down all day, cutting off the circulation from like the spine to the heart, which just came to me just now. But it's like the way that we're living, humans are not designed to live this way. And
Absolutely.
you yeah, like you speak to quite literally the remedies to support yourself that get back to the essence of earth and Mother Earth at her core. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that before I pass the mic to you, and you can just express like your background and your experience with it. But I got a lot from it.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. No, I've met a couple of people. I was in the West Coast, and there were some people that I met after the book released, and they were talking about it with me, and it was pretty much the same idea as you. There's a lot of real heavy definitions of what curanderismo is, and then we
Yeah.
also have the tradition itself. And so I think us who are not in Mexico or in Latin America can kind of see it from a, overview and be a little bit more light about it, which I think is one of the things that it was important to me, because even though I was raised within this, it wasn't something that was sort of like dug into me. It was sort of like, this is just the way we are. That's it. This is just the way we are. And Rosa Maya, who is a traditional healer in Guatemala, even though she's not from Guatemala, she's from, I believe, Colombia. She's very light about it as well. And so when I sat with her last year, I was like, wow, this is what it's about. Like this right here. There isn't this specificness, and there isn't this like heaviness, and you know, so yeah, so I'm happy to hear you say this, because this is definitely a feedback that I've gotten before. So that's really beautiful. Thank you. Um, and then in terms of myself, well, I guess if you want me to sort of introduce myself a little bit, is I was born in Mexico. My father was Cuban. My mother is a Mexican Toltec indigenous woman. Because of the way that they grew up in their countries with a lot of poverty, they wanted for me something completely different, which is, go to school, get an education, go to college, get a good job, get married, have children, and then you retire. Like that was the idea. And then somewhere along the way, I spiraled out of that. And the way that I explain to people is that idea of education, marriage, children, the house, the car, retirement, that's a very linear. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. But as humans, we actually don't do that. We're actually cyclical, and we're actually spiraling. Even though it looks like you may be at the same point you were maybe 4 years ago, you're actually at a different vibration than you were 4 years ago. So technically it's not a line, it's more of a spiral, right? And so for me, I spiraled out of that at some point because I did the beginning. I went to school to New York City. I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology. I started fashion design. I not only studied, I was one of the top 10 students. And then I became like, one of the most wanted students for a lot of these fashion brands. And so I actually worked in the fashion industry, both high end and what we call low end. And, I worked there for 18 years. And within those 18 years, at some point, I needed to figure out how to maintain not only the requirement of working these long hours, but also like my own personal vibrancy, which I didn't know that's what I was looking for until later, And so this all led me to meditation and then yoga and then herbalism and then Ayurveda. And then like, wait a minute, there's this stuff in my family too. Like we grew up not going to the doctor and doing all this stuff at home. And so back to where I am now. And then the book itself, it really is a culmination that I didn't know I ever wanted to write as a book. Like you always have this idea, well, maybe I'll write stuff down for people to read and maybe I'll do a course because I have done that, but to actually write a book and to take a year, because that's what it took a year off my life to really dive and get really specific about certain things. It really did become like a legacy thing, and I had a very difficult time saying yes at the beginning, because, I'm Cuban and Mexican and I don't look, either. A lot of people tell me, oh, well, you don't look Mexican and you don't look really Cuban. And then, so, the definition of Latin has become to some people very broad and then to other people very defined and very specific. And I don't fit, I don't fit the specifics. And so for me to really like have confidence in writing the book, I had to be really confident in my family lineage. And that's something that I learned as I wrote the book, like really saying, oh, wow, this is really like, remembering certain recipes, remembering certain formulas, when you're asked to organize the book in a certain way before you actually write it, like I had to be really clear about a lot of things within myself and my family. And so for me, that it resonates with others like you and other people that have given me feedback, it's beautiful because it means that as a Latin community or as even people who appreciate, because that's somebody who's not Latin, when they appreciate the community, they understand that it's about the person. As is Latin herbalism, it's about the person and the lineage. Because like I write in the book, not everybody follows exactly the same formulas. There's going to be tweaks, but that's also part of the cyclical nature of how we approach living, and how we approach our communities and ourselves. So,
yeah. I wanted to speak to what you just said, and then I have a question because you had shared the length and time in which it took you to write the book. But so both of my parents they were born in Mexico, and I can totally relate to the whole like aesthetic of not looking like a Latina or Mexican, like I look like a white girl, right? And it's so interesting because like my background parallels that with respect to like living the corporate dream and like, kind of building that for you based off of like what you're basically like our ancestors just wanted us to have better lives than what they had, and they wanted the next generation to do better. And now like kind of bridging away from that, it's like, well, why can't I have both? And I think that like right now I'm in the process of getting my Mexican citizenship, and like my one parent understand what when the other parent doesn't quite get it, but both are really in support of it. Mm-hmm. And it's quite fascinating to observe like the change within the family. It's almost kind of like a coming back to self. That's kind of what it really sounds like when you were writing the book, and the process and the time in which it took you to do so. Did you go through like coming back to self, dark night of the soul, lots of shadow work in the process? Like what were your feelings as you were literally birthing this creation?
It was interesting. At the beginning, it was very easy. But as I got closer to like the last educational chapter, because the last chapter in the book is about introduction to other curanderos and curanderas, right? But like right before that, right before I got to chapter 9, that's when I started to really question myself, because that's when I talk about energy work. And energy work is very different than the physical properties of a plant. And to be honest with you, it's different for everybody. Everybody experiences that. I mean, everybody can say aura, but have you really experienced the aura? Like that's different. And it manifests differently for different people. And so when I got to that part of the book, big giant block, because I wasn't sure. I mean, I had the language, but I wasn't sure if the language was right, in parentheses, for other people. And so I had to like really sit with that and come to terms with like, this is really truly my very personal experience, and maybe it will resonate and maybe it won't. And then if people want to cancel me for it, fine, let them, you know. But it was that I would say was probably the part where like I had to really work with that shadow space, where it was like, oh my god, what happens if people don't believe me, or if they don't like it, or they don't understand it, or they don't like the language, or like, how can I write this to make it really, what's the right word, like, I would say, how do I write this to make it really to assimilate to other people? But you can't, because that wouldn't be me, then it wouldn't be quote unquote my method or the way that I see things or how it manifests for me. So that chapter really brought that in. And then some of the other parts in the other chapters, like, there were things where I had to like sit with my mom, like, Mom, what's the recipe for this? Like, can you go through it one by one? And so that was really nice, because I've never done that with her. I've never, and my family, and I think I say it in the book, my family wasn't a teaching family. There's people who take this very, like, again, in Latin America, it's very heavy because they take it very, it's like learning a trade. If your grandfather was a curandero and you're going to be a curandero, then you have to go and you have to apprentice and and it's hard. There's heaviness in that for me. It wasn't like that in my family. And my father was, if anything, was like, are you watching what I'm doing? Yeah, okay, then you're learning. That's it. Like, it wasn't, now there were things, because I think at the end of his life, and I was there for the end of his life, he really wanted to make sure he passed on. Then he would say, but he wouldn't, and it wasn't like, I don't know if it was because he was embarrassed, or it was because he just felt like at certain times it was just like, let's just do this. But he would be like, are you busy? No, I'm not busy. He goes, come with me. And he would take me outside to the garden and he would show me, because you go like this and you go like this and you put it together and you do it at this time. And it's like, okay. And then that was it. That was a lesson. It's not like, well, here are the properties of the plant, or here are the energy. Like, it wasn't any of that. And then, later on, I understood as I would pick certain plants and flowers, like, oh, okay, I get the energy of this. Oh, okay. So there was a lot of like self-inquiry, even within that teaching. And so to sit with my mom and learn about recipes that I honestly, like, I know that they're gut healing, I know that they're amazing, but there are certain things that I don't think about and how to put them together. So to sit with her was also like, for me, coming back to that space where, oh, right, I still don't know who I am because I don't know these things, so yeah. So the idea of coming with the shadow work, it's always going to happen, especially when it's really personal, like really personal work, because you do question, like, are people going to understand me? And that chapter, I wish, well, I don't wish, because it's done and it's beautiful and I've read it and I really love it. But that chapter 9, I'm like, man, should I have given this to somebody else? To like, because even sometimes I read it and I'm like, oh my God, do people get this? Like, do they really get it? And so, yeah, so that was a lot of shadow work for that chapter. And then the rest was, coming home in a different way, with sitting down with my mom, getting some of the, or even sometimes some of the things like, do you remember when Dad used to do this? Like, what was that other thing that I remember tasting but not seeing? Like, like certain things like that. So that I would say would be coming home for me. But a lot of the recipes, a lot of the rituals, I've been doing this work now for 15 years. So a lot of it is really natural to me. But there were things like when you have to write them down where you sort of go, okay, there's a blind spot here. There's something missing. So coming home in that way was really sitting there with my mom and like, digging in her brain. And that was nice because I've never been able to do that. So, or never had the calling to do that. So that was nice.
I love that for you. And I love the way that you share your experience, how it was both like personal for you, but also on a tribal level and like that coming back to self. Cause I know that like it has to, it's almost kind of getting like what I'm seeing visually is that your ancestors were very pleased with the act of you also birthing this and putting this out to the world, not just from a lineage standpoint, but like what people will receive upon reading your book. Cause it's very practical.
Yeah.
And it's very like, what's so interesting to me, it's like agua fresca, like, and like all of the rubs. And I'm flipping through the book right now. So if you're watching on YouTube, this is the cover, friends.
I love it.
Yeah. But I think for me, it's just, so I haven't unpacked this and I don't know that I've spoken to this in detail just yet on the show, but I worked previously in vaccine research as the third party. Like, yeah. So I worked on second generation COVID vaccines, which was such a spiritual setup for my guides. Like what I've done previously in the past, it's a lot of like what I'm here to do from a contract standpoint. And like, that's how I get a lot of my spiritual lessons. So that's for another show. But my point in bringing this up is that I mean, you acknowledge and you see how plants and herbs are quite literally at the core of every remedy. And in every pill form, I mean, someone can fact check me, but there's the essence of a plant in a pill. And so it's like literally coming back to, and I don't know that that's as well known as people may realize. So that's why I say that.
I think a lot of people think medicine, or quote unquote allopathic medicine, and the pills that we take in, they're just like, oh, somebody came up with this. No, actually, we've been treating diabetes, we've been treating cholesterol, we've been treating now. It hasn't been treated to the degree that it's treated now because we have such sedentary lives. Like, that's a reality. But yeah, every medication out there has come from a plant. Now, one of the things that I teach when I teach herbalism to people is, there's a reason for that, because all plants not only cure, they also uncure, right? They also actually have side effects. And so when you take that one thing that you need by itself and use it in a pill form, it's supposed to be better. But, I don't think anybody's ever questioned, like, wow, we've always had diabetes, but we've never had the amount of diabetes we have now. Like, that's the question mark that really should be out there. Not so much like, well, what do I take for the diabetes? It's more like, wait a minute, what's happening? Why is like a third of the world diabetic? There is a reason for that, right? Why is there like so much high blood pressure? Why is it like, we don't question the whys. We just want to fix it. And I think that's part of the problem with, also, I have to tell you, the herbalism situation today. Everybody I know, oh, I'm an herbalist. Why? Because you took a 10-hour thing on YouTube or whatever. It's like, actually, that doesn't make you an herbalist. Knowing that this is a disease and this is a plant for the disease, that's not an herbalist. An herbalist is going to sit with you, or they're going to chat with you. Curanderismo is a little bit even more in depth than that, because we actually, in curanderismo, the plática is at the core, and the plática is mental awareness, both of each person. And that's how you actually figure out what the disease is. So you may have diabetes, but once I have a plática with you, I can tell you, well, yes, you have diabetes, but you have diabetes for these reasons, right? And now let's go to the reasons first, and then we'll fix the diabetes, right? And so it's very different when we actually sit down and diagnose people that way, because people think herbalism is that. It's disease, plant, done. No.
It's so, I totally get that. And like, I totally had those fears when I first started too, especially readings. It's like, oh my gosh, am I going to be like, like a fraud, or like, but like, there's crazy what fear will do to your mind. But I completely agree. Like, this is dedication. This is a lifestyle. This is this is literally like the course of your life. That is what it requires to truly be a master at this level for curanderismo and all that it covers and the depths that it goes into. So I appreciate you saying that. In terms of, so in the book, you speak to apprenticeships and the way in which, like, people go about getting, or like the different areas that they focus in. So like from the masseuses or orthopedic healing, and then you have the section for like herbs with respect to like body, mind, and energy. And then also there's another one that speaks to today's midwives and doulas. And what's really cool about doulas, like you also say this in the book, is that we see more of that marrying in modern day medicine with them being in hospitals and whatnot. But in terms of those areas of work for you specifically amongst those three, which is your favorite area if you had to choose?
Oh, for sure, yerbera, which is herbs. I love herbs.
Yeah.
And specifically for me, and I don't know if there's something out there, and, I'm traveling more and more to Latin America, and I'm getting more and more information and education from that side, but I love flowers. I love working with flowers themselves. And flowers are the uterus of plants, because from that uterus comes the fruit, and from the fruit comes the seed. And so it's like, and so for me, flowers and the frequency of flowers really speak to me a lot. And and so when I found flower essence as a practice and as a healing modality with Julia Graves, I was like, this is my jam. It's quiet, it's subtle, powerful. It's really cool. So so I would say herbalism and yerberismo and yerbera, like that's really my jam, which means herbalist. But it's so much more than just, again, it's not just disease and herb. It's like there's so much more in there that we can do. And me with specifics, I really love flowers. So and I don't know, maybe there's like I don't know. We'll have to figure out a word for that. But yeah, definitely flower work is my thing.
I love that. Oh, you had me thinking when you said the uterus, and I was like, oh, like I read for a lot of women, and I always see flowers, and they're different flowers. So I'm like, I don't know what this flower is, and then I have to go look at the symbolism. Them. But yeah, definitely,
their essence is beautiful.
Yeah, totally. And I'm like, yeah, I saw a lotus flower for you. So, anyways, it's like a whole thing. But okay, so if you were, or have this maybe been a thought, and I know like the process of writing a book, we've had a few authors on our show, but it's like from concept, from writing, from getting it to the publisher, from getting it out to the public, it's truly like a commitment, years long. But if you said, if I mean, I don't know if this is a thought that's come forth, but is there a follow-up to this book? And if so, what would it
Absolutely.
be? Yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely feel like after I read the first book, I was like, man, where are all these other herbs I want to talk about? I was like, oh, second book. Like I knew immediately, second book. I don't even know if the publisher is interested in that or not, but I definitely see a second book. And then, my life has always been trilogies. And so definitely a second book. And I guess this is the first time I speak into it. And maybe it's good because it's a full moon, but like I definitely would love to do an oracle card. Like that would be the third thing. I think like, just like, for example, one of the things that I don't talk about in depth is garlic. Garlic is used as a very typical curanderismo energetic cleanser. And it's like, I talk about it as its physical properties for chests and stuff, but like I had I don't know if you know the word soplada. Soplada means to blow. So I had a cleansing with a soplada, which is like blowing alcohol all over your body and garlic. I was like, oh my God, I've never in my life, because I've had a lot of different types of limpias and a lot of different types of aura cleanses in the curanderismo, but I've never had that before. And that was intense. And I understood every time that she blew me with this garlic and alcohol, like every time, like I had the energy of garlic, like I knew what it was meant for. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. So something like that. Like, so for me, the book is amazing. And I think for a lot of people who are very new to this or want to rekindle this in their life and their family, because that's one of the other things that's happened with the book is people are like, no, I'm talking to my mom about this. I'm talking to my grandmother about this. And I'm like, that's awesome and amazing, But for those of us who already have a little bit more information, who are already intuitive, who are already like, what else can you do? And so for me, definitely a second book with, and I don't want to say advanced because advanced doesn't exist to me, but like definitely like a second sort of like a second materia medica of more herbs, their energetic qualities, their physical properties, and then maybe more in depth, at least from my perspective, flower identification, or energetic work. Like I see that. And then the oracle card, like I would love to have an oracle card. Imagine you pull out, for example, garlic. Shit. Okay, I got to go cleanse with the garlic, I love that.
No, I could totally see an oracle deck absolutely pairing so well with this book and this offering. There. For sure. And of course, another book, everything you just described as well. I just have this sense that just came in. So I was like, okay, let me ask this. I know that our audience is going to be interested in like one-to-one work that you offer, if you offer that. Can you speak a little bit about what it's like to work with you, what you offer in terms of one-to-one services and all the things?
Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. So I didn't, it's so interesting was because I think and so people have asked me, especially really good friends, so what is it like to be an author? I'm like, I'm not an author, I'm a curandera. So it's like, okay, how did I even get there? Because it was very difficult for me to say that. I didn't set out to be a curandera and to offer curanderismo. Like that it was sort of like, okay, I'm learning herbalism. There's herbalism also in Mexico. Okay, it's called, hierberas and herberismo. And I'm like, okay, or, herbolaria. I'm like, all right, cool. So they're very similar, but they're also different. And so it actually started with people asking me, like, can you make me something for this? My biggest, I think, when I realized like this was something that I could actually do is when I had a woman that was doing a Reiki training with me. So she was a fellow student, as I was a student. And she came up to me, she goes, my father has brain cancer and I have 5 pounds of cannabis and I need to make stuff for him because I want to alleviate his suffering. And I was like, okay, come to my house. I know what to show, I know what to make with you. And so we spent a Sunday afternoon making bottles and bottles and bottles of different types of remedies for him. And at that point I was like, wow, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is exactly the moment where for me it was like, okay, this is the rest of my life path. How do I make it happen? And so it wasn't like I woke up one day within my family lineage and said, oh my God, everybody, because my father really truly was, aside from being a complete and awesome, amazing artist, he was definitely a healer. My mother is as well. Like she has her own way. And I think her healing is more like kitchen cauldron, any food she makes can alleviate everything. But they're definitely healers in that way. But it wasn't like I woke up and said, oh, I'm going to be a healer, which is technically what curanderos are, right? Sanadores, healers. But I came to this because people were asking me, like, what can I do? Either can you show me how to do this for myself or can you help me with this? And people were very humble when they asked me. And so how can you say no to somebody who needs help and support in a beautiful way? You say, yes, let me see what I can do, and so that's kind of like how I got to this. And so today what I offer is my own blend of Reiki and Limpia together. And what I explain to people is Reiki helps me. And it took me about 5 years to become a Reiki master. Like, it wasn't like something again, it wasn't a weekend workshop and then I was like, boom, I'm a master. And like, it took a lot of Reiki from the beginning is all about self Reiki first. And then you offer to other people. That's if it comes up for you. And so Reiki helps me attune into the energy of the person. I don't always use the word chakras because that is a different modality. But if that person understands those words, then that's what we talk about. And then based on that, then I sort of figure out what limpia, because there's different types of limpias. In the book, I think I only cover like 2 or 3, but there's more. And so then I offer whatever limpia that person needs. And, for me, it's energetic clearing. I don't talk about like, we're going to take this negative spirit off, like that's to me is a lot of superstition. So for me, it's very clear. It's electromagnetic energy. Your body holds onto it in certain places in your body. And sometimes it feels heavy and sometimes it feels light. And all we have to do is harmonize it. And so Reiki helps me to do that. And the limpia and the herbs themselves, the energy of the herbs help me to sort of like finalize and remove anything else that I wasn't able to sort of help you attune to. And so the basic that I do is Reiki Limpia, and you can do it in person, which is, really beautiful and wonderful. And it's a very, I don't talk and there's not a lot of that happening. So it's a lot of you're receiving a lot, which is beautiful. And then we can also do it virtually, and a lot of people have told me like, how can it be possible that I feel your hand over my chest? Or how can it be possible that I feel your hand around my feet? Because I'm not there, right? So it's obviously very, very possible virtually. And so that's the basic core of what I offer one-to-one. On top of that, because of the requests that people have done to me, I sometimes offer cacao ceremonies. I sometimes do blessings, which are, for babies that are coming into this world. I do vision quests if somebody's like they're like, I don't need a limpia, but I'm very confused about my life and I'm not really sure, and so usually those people, either they had a very traumatic experience where they haven't really come back into themselves, or they had an accident and like they're their auric isn't coming back into itself. The energy is still floating. So I do vision quests sometimes. So it's not, I don't have like a repertoire, right? Like people do, but I definitely am known for the Reiki Limpia, and that's what I enjoy, number one, to offer. And I also know that it brings really good results when people are receptive to it and are really in need of it. So that's. And then on top of that, I mean, education is one thing, and then offering products is another. But if it's one-on-one, then it's in depth. It's that. Yeah.
Do you offer the Limpia Reiki services online too? Is it remote?
Yeah. You can do virtual,
Okay,
and
awesome.
you can do in person. Yeah, which is really
Perfect.
cool. Yeah, the virtual ones are always the ones that get me, because they're like, when they're done and they open theirs, they're like, I feel like you were in the room. It's so weird. I'm like, yeah, I kind of was.
Yeah, for sure. You also mentioned education, and you have an upcoming course. Would you like to share a little bit about that, and as well as where people can find you?
Totally. So before I wrote the book, a lot of the information that's more of like maybe the second and third chapter comes from my folk remedies course that I did, and I taught that in 2019, 2020, 2021, and I think 2022. And then I took a break because life just got busy. And so the book is again based a little bit off that. But in the course that I'm going to be teaching, that I am going to call Latine Herbalism at this point, because it's just easy and it goes with the book really well. It's a course that's intensive to learn not just more in depth of the book itself, but to learn about more herbs, about actually coming together. Because a lot of people have said to me, I love this, but like I'm kind of nervous to go in the kitchen and make stuff. So I'm there to support that, right? And then we're also going to do 4 months of that, which is really based on the book and going in depth in every chapter. And then we're going to do 4 months of self-led apprenticeship, where I'm really just there to support you to actually not just, I'm going to take a class and that's it. No, you're going to take a class and we're going to put it in your life. You have to integrate it. And so that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be 8 months. So 4 months of like, and I say intensive because we're meeting it's my it's my imagination right now, right? Because I haven't fulfilled it all. But at least I'm thinking we're going to meet weekly. We're going to have sit downs. We're going to put, medicine together. We're going to sit down and do Reiki together. We're going to sit down and, have all the things. And then there's 4 months where you have to do this for yourself. And especially if you want to offer to other people, because I get, when I teach Reiki, I tell people, I'm not here to make more students. I'm here to make more masters. That's my job, because, you should be able to do this within your communities. So for me, this course, I'm hoping to make it a certifiable course where people can actually take this information and offer it to their community, and integrate it in their life. Because otherwise, what's the point? You might as well just leave the book on the shelf, Like
Yeah,
the next thing.
definitely. Yeah, I love that. Was so well said. Thank you for sharing that. Where can people find your book? Can they purchase it on Amazon? And where can they find you on Instagram, on
Yeah.
YouTube, all the things, your website?
So the book is under its own website. That's latineherbalism.com, which reroutes you to my curandera remedies website, which is really where you can find all the offerings, all the courses, all the workshops. You can book a 30-minute consultation. It's free, and we can figure out if I can help you, or if I can send you one of my other amazing friends that are healers as well, if you need anything. So, and the Instagrams are also, thank God, the same: Latine Herbalism and Curandera Remedies.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Be sure to follow, friends. I'm so grateful for this episode and the opportunity to read your book and all the things. And I just know that our audience is going to love it.
Good.
And and thank you for coming on. And something that we like to do at the end of the show is to pull a card from a deck.
Woo!
And I was like, I haven't pulled from this one for the audience. And I was like, this is actually perfect, because I was like, it just feels it's on brand. I don't know, but
What is
it's
it?
the Medicine Woman
Oh, I
Oracle.
love it. Beautiful.
Do you?
I've never seen that one. I have one that's called, oh yeah, it's also called Medicine Woman, but it's different drawings.
Really? Oh, okay. So if I pull the card, would you mind just maybe like interpreting it?
Sure. Let's see what happens.
Okay. And I just want to share, like, it's super pretty.
It's
And it's
beautiful.
divided into threes, much like,
Nice.
Curanderismo. Yeah. So in terms of the coloring, and then the side of the deck, it's really pretty. It's like,
Well, I'm definitely doing the frequency of red this year. I've never actually worn red as much as I've worn this year, and so like that deck is perfect.
It's funny. I was like, do I wear a red shirt or a blue shirt? And I wore red yesterday. So I was like, we're going with blue today. So yeah, red's a thing right now, especially with the root chakra. Okay. The card is Healing Family Lines. Free yourself from secrets. Discover the hidden treasure of your heritage. Do you have thoughts on that one?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I always get, and this is a beautiful question that I had in Portland when I was introducing the book. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And somebody said, well, how do I get started? How do I get started with this? And I said, ask about your birth story. Ask about your birth story. And not just, okay, this is how you were born, but like ask your mom if she's alive, or your auntie if your mom, like, how did you come into the realm of the energy of your parents? Like, that's a thing. That tells you a lot about not just how you were born into this world, but like the energy that you carry. At what moment did your parents, decide, oh, we're going to have a kid? Like, what was happening in their life? That's important. And then the physical birth, and I've said this many times, and I've made people cry just by saying this, and I'm like, oh my God, maybe it's too much, but I think your listeners can handle it. But like, how you were born is really how you show up in the world, and it's interesting because, especially with cesarean babies, they're very confused. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. They're sort of like, ah! And it's like, yeah, they didn't choose it was chosen for them. So of course they're confused, but if you have a birth story where, and of course we can also get into the details of like how was the cesarean and all that stuff. But if you have a birth story where your mother, felt the pangs of being ready to release the pregnancy, like that's important, because that's how you come into the world. I know my birth story from my parents, who told me every single year until my father passed away. And it was like, okay, that is exactly how I live in the world. Like, I can see my tendencies as a human being from like that birthing experience. And even my relationship to my mom and my dad. It's just fascinating. So yeah, so if anybody wants to get started in this and they don't want to get the book, and it's, then find out your birth story. And again, that also opens up to what the card says, family lineage and healing that, because there's a lot to be said in that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Thank you. had me thinking about cesareans just because like I'm pretty sure I'm having babies in the next few years, and I'm just like, oh, we'll have to have you back on for that whole topic because it feels like that's just a whole nother area to get into. But thank you so much, Josie. I will be sure to link all of those links in the show notes. Be sure to check her out. Give her a follow on Instagram. Purchase her book. It's phenomenal, friends. And until the next time, bye.